Do you want to know why low tolerances are better than high tolerances for parenting? I'm Nicolene Peck, and I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about tolerances. So in this video, we're going to talk about the difference between low tolerances and high tolerances. And I think that some of what I have to share today may surprise you, because people do have a way of viewing tolerances that might not match what we're talking about today. And also, we're going to talk about when high tolerances actually could be a good thing. Generally speaking, people usually want to be tolerant of others. They don't want to be judgmental. They want to make sure that they accept other people that are different from them. And that type of tolerance actually seems like a really good thing. In fact, in parenting, it actually is good to accept when things happen. So if a child has done some negative behavior or something and you need to correct it, well, one way that you're going to stay calm and confident and comfortable and safe during the correction is by having a tone of acceptance, like, oh, okay, well, these things happen, no problem, I'll just help the person fix it, we'll have a little teaching moment and we'll move on. So that would be a type of tolerance on the inside that suggests I'm okay with you even if I have to correct a problem. I'm not taking that personal, no big deal. But when it comes to the behavior that we're seeing, so let's say a child spits at another child. Do we just tolerate that? Most people would say, no way, that's just a horrible one. We couldn't tolerate that. We would have to talk to them about, being nice and how we don't spit at other people, and we would have to practice a better way to solve our problems than spitting, right? So that would be maybe a no-brainer for parents. But what about when you're telling your child no for something and they're like, yeah, but da-da-da-da, and they talk back to you about something like that? And then you start talking back to them. If they talk back to you and then you talk back to them, that actually means your tolerances are high. So that means you're putting up with talk back or them challenging your decision or your parental authority. And when you do that, that's actually bad for your relationship. It's bad for their self-government. It makes it so they don't get the opportunity to evaluate the behavior. So if you wanted to help them with the behavior of talk back, then what you would do is you would ahead of time teach them another skill. It's a skill of self-government that I often teach on this channel. If you've subscribed to this channel, I'm sure you've heard me mention this skill many times. The skill is disagreeing appropriately. So you teach them the skill of disagreeing appropriately, and then once you tell them, no, you can't do this thing, they say, okay, may I disagree appropriately? Now at that point, we are now engaging using a skill. So the tolerances are low, I'm not putting up with talk back, but they are engaging with me in a way that is done respectfully. And they're planning on doing it appropriately and respectfully too, because they planned it ahead of time. So now we can have a conversation that doesn't include trying to wear somebody down, trying to overpower somebody, trying to, just push emotions on somebody so that you try to get them to change to your point of view, but instead to have a good, rational, logical conversation instead. When you practice low tolerances with your children, this does mean that you are going to be correcting behaviors more, but we need to be open to that. What is our role after all? This book here, Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success, is a great resource to understand about family roles and how to work together as a group. It's not like family responsibilities, like who makes dinner and stuff like that, but it's really who you are to each other in the group. So one thing that we learn in this book is that parents have a role as teacher and children have roles as learner. If the teachers don't teach or the learners don't learn, then we end up having a situation where there is dysfunction. When you keep your tolerances low, that is a step away from dysfunction, because you are going to be correcting things more often, which maintains parental authority. It maintains that teacher and learner dynamic that's so important for the children. Now, I know some children don't like to be the learner all the time. They might have some strong wills or maybe some strong opinions about things. However, when a child learns to be corrected, they learn to accept consequences, now they are ready to properly self-govern throughout their life. If a person does not get the opportunity to accept consequences, then they actually can't learn self-government. So it really is a gift for a parent to teach their child how to accept consequences, even if the child doesn't want to. I think many parents fall into high tolerances, like they put up with the whining and the waking up late and not getting chores done and all the different things that happen because they think, I just can't battle all day. I just can't keep having fights over everything. So fine, I'll just do it myself. I won't worry about it. I'll walk past the room and shut the door, you know? Those are the types of things that parents tell themselves. But when you do that, you're actually teaching the child to be entitled, possibly lazy, to take advantage of other people, and not to self-motivate. So what you need to do instead is take the time to do the corrections. Even if they go completely out of control, be prepared for that. Be prepared for what to do after that. A wise self-government family pre-teaches their whole system ahead of time. So they teach the skills that everyone will need, like the 4 basic skills of self-government that I talk about on this channel. They also teach the 5 teaching styles, which I cover periodically in different videos here, but which also are covered in great detail on my TSG parenting course on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com. They do checkup meetings with them. They give feedback to their children, not in a micromanage way. They don't micromanage everything the child does, but if they need to praise or they need to pre-teach for something in the future or they need to correct, they're not afraid to do that. And if the child chooses not to accept that correction or that instruction and goes completely out of control, the parent has already prepared themselves and the child to not have a problem with this interaction. Even if the child is completely out of control, the child knows the steps to the intensive teaching that the parent is using. So there are 2 different types of intensive teaching that I talk about in my TSG parenting course. And if those are discussed and pre-taught to the children, then when you need to use them, you can just use them. You don't have to take anything personally or get upset. You just use the script and everybody knows what's happening and what negative consequences are earned so that proper cause and effect learning can take place. So this brings me to a really important part about tolerances. And this might surprise you. I think that some people think that in order to have low tolerances, you have to be grumpy. You don't have to be grumpy, cross, mean, or any other such emotion to have low tolerances. You can be kind, understanding, thoughtful, compassionate, but still have low tolerances. Calmness is the hallmark of a person who is practicing good self-government and keeping their tolerances low, because they're not even tolerating misbehavior out of themselves. They're holding themselves to a higher standard. Now, what about those high tolerances that could ever be good? Because I did say at the beginning, sometimes high tolerances can actually be a good thing. Let me explain a few of those scenarios. So let's say you're meeting someone for the first time, or you're going to be watching a child or something like that for the first time. And they have some behavior that you know is not socially acceptable. It might even be rude. Is it appropriate or good timing for you to bring those things up right then to that person when you're just meeting them for the first time? No. It's probably a good idea to look past those things at the very beginning until some proper pre-teaching has happened. For many years, I took in therapeutic treatment care children into my home, and I taught them how to govern themselves. Now, the very first moment I saw them, there might be clothing that they wore that wasn't going to be acceptable in our home. They might have said words that weren't going to be acceptable in our home. They might have had behaviors that were annoying or not socially acceptable. But at the very beginning of meeting them, I didn't bring any of those things up. It wasn't until after I taught them what was acceptable in our home that I started doing the teaching. So sometimes when something happens the first time, we don't say anything and then we pre-teach for how we will handle it in the future. That's when a high tolerance could actually benefit. If a behavior happens the first time, don't go straight to a correction. Instead, do a teaching moment where you tell them how you'll handle it in the future. Technically, this is still low tolerances, but they aren't earning a consequence, and so it could seem like the tolerances are a little bit higher. Another way that high tolerances could be beneficial is in a moment when a child is trying to use one of their skills, but maybe they didn't get it exactly right, if I remind them of a step that they missed in one of their self-government skills, that's actually a moment of high tolerance, but it's also a moment of mercy. And so I'm actually helping them succeed right there when I see their heart is really in it. They're not trying to be bad or difficult in any kind of a way. Whether you have high tolerances or low tolerances, can I encourage you to go more toward low tolerances in your parenting standard? Have high tolerances with your friends and neighbors for the most part, and with all the other people that you are not in charge of teaching. But when you're the teacher and they're the learner, it is more merciful and kind for them for the long run to have low tolerances. We are responsible for training our children socially. If they don't turn out socially, that's actually on us as parents because we are the social trainers. Calmness is going to be a big thing for you. You need to make sure that you have low tolerances for your own tone of calmness. I want to help you with that. I have a Calm Parenting Toolkit. It's on my website, and you can access it in the link below this video. So below this video in the description section, there's a link that says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. When you go to that link, you can have the Calm Parenting Toolkit for free. That'll be 10 tools for calmness that you can start using today, and you'll be on the road to self-government. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.